persons at the lower end of the scale, one, because they're going to charge them more, and but they're going to monitor them more because they know there's a higher risk attached to those persons.
Right.
And then there are other people who only want the blue chip people because they don't have the time, they want to make the decisions quickly, and they don't have the time to focus on monitoring and so on. So they would want people at the upper end of the range. So it all depends. There are institutions that cater to various persons. It depends on...
I've also heard people make reference when they go away to the United States, for instance, they'll take out a credit card and they'll say, look, I wasn't into credit cards before, but in the U.S., you have to build your credit. As in, you have to borrow some stuff and pay it off in good time to show that you have good credit. Because if you don't, if you're like some people, like maybe like me, who I don't like the credit card thing, I try to avoid using a credit card as much as possible. And so if you don't, then that is just as bad as having quote unquote bad credit. Is that what is likely to transpire in Jamaica, that people will be increasingly encouraged to borrow, to use credit cards, to use them wisely and build a credit score, so to speak?
Well, I anticipate that we will see a situation developing where you need to have a credit history. We are a smaller society than the United States, and we have been developed a lot on relationship management. So people know you have a relationship with your bank, you have an account manager who understands your needs and so on. But we are obviously going to get to a stage where people need to demonstrate their capabilities to handle credit, and increasingly larger amounts of credit, and see how they function. So if they don't know anything about you and they have no prior relationship with you, and you can't show them a credit history, they will therefore put you in the category of the unknown, and you will get charged a higher rate, be asked for more security, and maybe be given a lower line of credit.
But there are a lot of people in Jamaica. We still exist in a society where, for instance, a lot of people's preferred method of saving
is cash.
Is partner. Yeah, and so they'll join a partner that doesn't necessarily come with credit scores and that kind of thing. That you don't build your credit score in a partner situation.
But if you have a partner plan with a group, well, that's fine. You're being financed.
You have some people in an office. You have some people at your office who you have a partner with, and that's your credit history. And then you go somewhere else and you can't transfer that.
Well, you can't.
You can't represent
that. So I don't think the point of credit reporting is to encourage people to take on liabilities that they can't afford.
True.
But certainly, one can take out a credit card with a low limit and just use it for accounting purposes. It's not all that safe anymore to work with large amounts of money.
True.
So using your credit card and paying it off monthly not only is good for security, but it's good for your accounting. You have a paper trail, and then you also use that mechanism to build up your credit. So you don't actually have to need credit in order to build up your credit history. And we also anticipate that the utilities will be coming on board by the end of this year or so, and you will also be able to demonstrate your credit worthiness by how you handle your financial obligations to your service providers. So that is also going to be an indicator.
That's interesting.
So, and that is exactly so for the persons who have no credit exposure with a financial
So
institution.
you pay your light bill, you pay your internet, you pay your water bill on time.
You pay your credit card bill. Those are indicators that have been used internationally to recognize the credit worthiness of persons. And we don't expect Jamaica to be any different. As far as the international agencies are concerned, they have a really vested interest, again, because of their economic development mandate, to see that environments have a credit reporting activities going on to be able to help unlock access to credit for persons such as you have just described, who do not have access to credit because they may not have the security to offer, the traditional security. And if you have a good credit score, over time, that the institutions will accept that almost like the security, because you have demonstrated your capability to handle credit. So all of the things being equal, obviously they will do their risk management and maybe limit the amounts and so on and so forth. But as they gain confidence in the credit reports that are issued and in the integrity of the scores and all those kinds of things, they will be using it in order to maybe make a quick decision out in the field with their field staff, or to give credit to a new client who they had no exposure to before, but they can see how they dealt with other institutions, because that's the whole basis, that the past is a good predictor for the future.
Let me put it to you. There has been a conversation in the last few weeks about the significant increase in the number of microfinancing institutions, as many people call them. We've seen reference made to persons arguing there needs to be greater regulation of such institutions. Do those kinds of institutions come to you for credit history, etc.? Are they seeking to be among your client list so that they can better assess, or is it that being kind of out there and unregulated, they're not really interested in getting that kind of information?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the microfinance institutions are allowed under the legislation to be credit information providers, as long as they have been exempted under the Money Lending Act by the Bank of Jamaica, not the Bank of Jamaica, the Ministry of Finance. And so we have many microfinance institutions who are our credit information providers, and more are signing on. So it is likely they do handle significant amounts of money, and so we expect that more and more of them will sign on as the days go by.
Indeed. Let's now turn back our attention to the World Bank International Financial Corporation that was recently here, and they had a particular interest in what you are doing, because again, seeking to bring Jamaica up to date with the implementation, bringing us on par with the rest of the world. Tell us a little bit about what that was and why they came to you.
Well, I mean, they just wanted to know how we are going with our implementation, what some of the challenges are, to see how they can help in terms of, lobbying with the powers that be, any assistance that they themselves can provide, because having credit bureaus operating in the market and issuing reports, and the financial institutions using reports in their risk management protocols, actually moves us further up the doing business index that is issued by the World Bank annually. So at the end of last month, I think it is, we made returns to the World Bank indicating how we have been operating since we have started, how many reports we have issued, which kinds of institutions are using them, so that they can do this assessment and compare how we're doing with other countries. And we anticipate that we will move further up the doing business index. And they also, a lot of the region is moving in this direction. So we are the first to have put formal credit reporting legislation in place. Guyana also passed credit reporting legislation in 2012. And in fact, my group, Creditinfo, we have the license in Guyana to set up their credit bureau there. And the rest of the region is moving to look at formal credit reporting legislation. So, in fact, when the IFC is here now in Jamaica with the Bank of Jamaica and other regional regulators to look at the experience that we have had here in Jamaica and to see how they can learn from that experience, so that when they're doing their legislation or putting the credit reporting framework in those countries in place, they will be able to avoid any errors and also make the best of what we have developed over the last 2 years.
All right. Thank you very much, Megan Deane, for sharing with us that information. Megan Deane is the Chief Executive Officer at Creditinfo here in Jamaica. We take a break and come back with more here on George Davis Live.